Welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and today I'd like to take some time to talk about party composition. Every single party of PCs who play Pathfinder 2e is going to be made up of different roles interspaced within the party, and it's important to understand at least a bit about those, or just keep some things in mind whenever you are building a PC for a party. Of course, things are going to be very flexible, and I'm not covering everything in this video because there simply is not enough time, but a lot of Pathfinder 2e is built on synergy, so it's important to keep stuff in mind whenever you're making your character. Let's get into it. First off, I want to talk about tanks. Or rather, why saying that you want to build a tank in Pathfinder 2e doesn't make all that much sense and isn't very realistic. So the idea of a tank comes from MMOs. And a tank in an MMO is defined by a character that will force an enemy to attack them, and that a character that has a ridiculous amount of health that can take all of the damage. Effectively, they aggro an enemy, then that enemy is going to attack them until they're dead, and they maintain aggro, and yada yada yada. The boss attacks the tank instead of attacking the squishy damage dealers or healers. Now in Pathfinder, this just doesn't work, because the things that you're fighting are intelligent and are most likely going to attack the people that are hurting them rather than the person who is standing there with a very big shield. Effectively, just tanks don't work in Pathfinder, and really any tabletop game, including 5th edition, and trying to build a character specifically to take hits and distract the enemy isn't just, okay, I'm gonna have a high constitution and heavy armor. There's a little bit more to it, and rather than saying that you want to build a tank, I think that you should say that you want to build a defender. Defenders take the focus off of other characters, or at least make it harder to attack those other people. That's why you are a defender. Champions are obvious defenders, with how they can reduce the damage that their allies take, and with their own incredible defenses. If someone wants to hurt your ally, then you either smack them if you're a paladin, or reduce the damage in other ways. So then if they want to effectively damage your allies, they have to go through you first. You're not forcing them to attack you, but you are making attacking other people a lot more annoying. Don't be fooled though, since champions are far from the only defenders in the game. They're just the only class that is explicitly forced into that archetype. If you trip and grapple someone, then you are a defender, as you are restricting their options to attack your allies. If you are debuffing someone, then I would technically call that a defender if that's what you're doing most of the time. You are making sure that your allies take less damage. It's a very versatile role and works honestly really well in combination with other people to defend. It's just a great way of making sure that your allies stay alive longer, and hopefully they can keep you alive by killing whatever you're fighting. Generally, you don't need a defender. Really, you just need the ability to take damage, but having someone in the party who can restrict enemy options and try and focus their attention as little as you can in a TTRPG where, an actual person is controlling the enemies that you're fighting rather than a very simple AI, it's still a very good role to have. Moving on from defenders, every party needs a striker. Strikers are not necessarily someone who makes strikes, but just someone whose job in combat is to deal damage. In all likelihood, everyone in the party is going to be dealing damage, even defenders, even spellcasters. It's just kind of what Pathfinder 2e characters do. They hit things and deal damage, but the focus is different. A champion is probably going to be hitting things a couple of times, but they're going to be spending more actions increasing their own defenses or the defenses of allies. Spellcasters are going to be casting a bunch of spells, but not every spell does damage. Now, a striker is just going to be dealing a bunch of damage, which is good because you need to deal damage to get out of combat. The important thing to keep in mind here is that every class can be a striker, but you have to understand the situations where different strikers and classes are effective. See, a rogue needs the opponent to be flat-footed. If you're dealing with an opponent that can't be flanked or that is immune to precision damage, a rogue is going to be in a very, very bad situation. Generally, spellcasters are a lot more situational in how effectively they can deal damage when compared to a martial, but in the right situations, they can be way more effective. Also, here's something to keep in mind at a session 0 before you actually start playing your campaign, which is, do you have any ranged ways of dealing damage? This could be on a personal level. It kind of sucks not being able to attack anything that's flying, but what's worse than just not being able to attack things that are flying is no one in your party being able to attack anything that's flying. Please trust me here, that is incredibly frustrating, so please talk with your party about how can we deal with things that we can't get up next to. It's something important to keep in mind, and yeah, just please do that. It's very frustrating when it happens. Finally, skills are extraordinarily important for most parties to function, and there are some particular skills that I recommend that you at least have one person who at least partially specializes in particular, medicine for out-of-combat healing. Without any investment at all, medicine kind of sucks. It takes 10 minutes to use, you can only do it once an hour, and it heals 2d8 hit points. However, once you put a couple of feats into it, it can get really amazing. With Ward Medic and Continuing Recovery, you can heal multiple people at once and every 10 minutes, and it's honestly the probably most reliable source of out-of-combat healing until people in the party start getting access to getting more than one focus point every 10 minutes. Once you get to that point, then magical healing like Lay on Hands can actually compete with Continuing Recovery and Ward Medic and all that, but still, Ward Medic is incredible, and I highly recommend talking with your party about, does anyone want to be a doctor, as it can really, really improve how quickly you can, say, explore somewhere, because it really speeds up how fast you heal. And Pathfinder 2e kind of expects that your front line is going to be at about full hit point. Finally, please have someone in your party who can identify magical items and is at least okay at it. You find a lot of loot in Pathfinder 2e, and Paizo really assumes that you're going to be identifying literally all of it, and it is really important. Just have someone who is okay at Arcana, Nature, Occultism, or Religion, and you'll be okay. It's funny the first time that you misidentify an item, but it's not all that funny if it happens constantly. Thanks for watching. Party composition is genuinely hard to talk about in full, so I hope that this turned out alright. 2e is a very complex game, and has a bunch of different moving parts, so many different moving parties actually work really well together, so it's hard to break down the rules for what does work and what doesn't. What tips for party composition do you have for people that are new to the game? And what questions do you have if maybe you are new or you just, I don't know, have questions? Do you think that I missed anything huge? Because I probably have. Let me know down in a comment below. Regardless of that though, live a wonderful life.